Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Julie Moon. I'm Senior Research Analyst with Finovate, and we are here at Finovate Fall 2025. Today I'm talking with Patricia Montesi, founder and CEO at Qolo, and we're going to be talking about modernizing the B2B payments tech stack. Patricia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Julie, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's dive right in. What pain points in the B2B payments space motivated you to create Qolo?
Well, I think in the B2B payment space, what we saw as a problem is that anyone that wanted, whether you were a fintech or a bank or a corporation, if you wanted to try to start embedding payments or you wanted to have smoother, more flexible payment movements both in and out, you had to essentially go get, from a modern perspective, you had to go get point products, right? So if you wanted a push to debit, you'd get one supplier. If you wanted ACH, to get another supplier. The reason that this was is that the legacy players in fintech, they had really built all their capabilities through M&A, and so they never connected the assets. So they had disparate platforms sitting around that could do all of that, but it wasn't an elegant integrated solution. So a bank or a fintech would have to go and get 6, 7, 8 different suppliers. And we actually named that the spiderweb of fintech, because what happens then is that the burden gets shifted back to them to say, how do I bring it all together? How do I unify my servicing of my clients? All of these different suppliers have their own portals, they have their own systems. How do I unify reconciliation? How do I know where my money is at any given point in time? So our entire thesis was that burden was expensive for those folks. And why did they have to do that if someone was around like Qolo, where we could bring it all together for them? So we set out to build an entire comprehensive payment stack that includes ledger, card, payments, virtual account management, everything all available through a single API, served up to you, so you can then focus on your customers and your sales and marketing and not have to hire engineers.
So I love how you take all those disjointed pieces and really modernize them. Now I want to dig into that modernization piece here. So banks and fintechs, as we know, banks are really under pressure to modernize. What do they often get wrong in this process of modernization?
Sure, I mean, I think in the bank space, they've had limited choices. So I think that they have looked at their legacy banking cores, and they've looked at their legacy payment providers, and they've tried to say, how do I switch? How do I rip and replace? What do I do? Because I'm being held back from an innovation perspective and I can't compete anymore and I'm losing deposits. So that's the problem that they have. What is interesting now is that they have more options, right? So they can innovate around the core. So what Qolo brings to the table and to banks is an alternative, right? A really elegant way for them to not disrupt, rip and replace, spend millions of dollars, because it's not just a technical thing to rip and replace, it is all of the process that's been wrapped around that core for decades of time, all the business process, they have to unravel that. So enter Qolo, all of a sudden they have another option where in less than 9 months, they can overlay our technology, keep their core, we integrate into the core, we integrate into their payment rails, and then the next day when we're live, they are modern, cloud-based, real-time, in number of subledgers, automatically have better improved cash management, treasury management, reconciliation, all to get started. So I think that they haven't necessarily done things wrong. I think they were limited in their options that they had.
Yeah, very cool. So I'm going to switch gears here and talk about embedded ledger. Tell us about what does an embedded ledger mean in practice, and why does this matter for businesses and banks, especially when they're looking at their B2B payment stack?
Sure, and I think we talked earlier about some of the things that have gone on in the industry that really have put the focus on truly what a ledger is, true reconciliation, and really making sure that you understand where the money is at any given point in time. What gets loosely thrown around is the word ledger, and I think it's important that people do their research and understand how sophisticated is that ledger. Plenty of card issuers have a ledger, but it's usually a basic ledger that works for card. But when you start adding in card, ACH, wire, RTP, check, etc., how does that ledger actually incorporate all of that? Does it unify all of those payment rails? Does it bring it all together? Is it bank grade? Is it dual entry? Like those are the types of questions that really matter. And so when we say embedded, it means it's actually underpinning all of the payment rails that we have. And it's actually part of your workflow. So it's embedded within that. And it's really important because you can have a ledger and it can be on the side. And what does that mean?
Yeah.
It's not embedded, right? It means that you have two books. So you want to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah, that embedded piece is so key, especially when it comes to compliance
Absolutely.
and staying compliant. Very cool. So how does Qolo help financial institutions adapt to the rise of real-time payments and digital payments without having to rip and replace their core? You spoke to this a little bit earlier, but if you could go a little bit more specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way our solution works for the banks is that without ripping and replacing a core, you overlay our technology, and then the options to transfer money on any rail are available to you, right? So we are agnostic to the payment rail. So if enter stablecoin, a stablecoin comes around, and then who knows what's going to come behind stablecoin, and then we have architected our platform in a way that it's really just an outer layer exercise to add another rail. So what's key to the banks is that when you innovate at the core on the account opening, you can easily attach any rail that you want, whether it's real time or not. And so combined with the virtual account management, combined with that integrated payment layer and the ledger, all of a sudden they get real-time money movement. They get improved cash management and liquidity management. They know where their cash position is at any given point in time, and there's never a question about reconciliation.
Very cool. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's truly future-proofed, that's so cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we have time for one last question here, and I kind of want to get into like a real-world example. Can you share a moment when a client was like, oh, wait, you can do that? And you realize at that moment where you're like, oh, your life's going to be so easy from now on.
Absolutely. I'll use the example of one of our earliest customers, the client super.com.
Okay.
One of our most strategic clients today. They are live and scaling and thriving on our platform. At the time when we were introduced through a mutual contact, they came to Fort Lauderdale where Qolo is based, and they kicked around our APIs, and they met with us for a few hours and flew back and went back to the contact that referred them and said, are these guys for real? Because they are light years ahead of everything we've looked at.
Cool.
And so of course my contact said, yes, so they absolutely are the real deal. And so fast forward, 4 years, and they're one of my top clients, and they're thriving, and they're using every aspect of our platform. So it was a great moment.
Ah, very cool. Yeah, that's so cool to hear that real life validation.
Absolutely.
Then awesome. Well, Patricia, thank you so much for joining us today. It's so cool to hear what you guys are up to at Qolo. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, Julie. Appreciate it so much.
Yeah, and thank you as well. We'll catch you next time.